Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Yeatman, earlier this month, on March the 3rd, a lawsuit was filed by Texas Utilities on under the regional Haze issue, and the state of Texas had to respond to an egregious action by EPA. In this case, EPA waited more than 6 years to disapprove the Texas State Implementation Plan and replace it with a federal implementation plan that imposes interim compliance requirements that some people say cannot be met. You know, it's kind of interesting when EPA rejected the Texas plan based on that the action was on direct reasonable progress into source-specific analysis. And I think the 10th Circuit actually ruled that the source-specific analysis in determining reasonable progress was not required either by the law or the regulation. Isn't this just a kind of a bullying of the coal industry and trampling on the state's plans and rights?
It is certainly, I would argue, an instance of inappropriate treatment of the states, an absence of respect for the state's decision-making, and indeed the state's authority pursuant to the Clean Air Act. If I might add, very briefly, at the outset of your question, you noted that EPA waited 6 years to act on Texas's plan, and that's actually a big component of this regional Haze regime. The EPA has 18 months by statute to judge a state plan, and yet what it has done time after time in state after state is sit on these plans well past the 18 months. And what that does is, under the Clean Air Act, environmental groups are allowed to sue the EPA to compel missed deadlines. The upshot is, because EPA has not been meeting its statutory responsibilities to review state plans in a timely fashion, they've opened themselves up to what are known as these sue and settle litigations or lawsuits, whereby they become beholden to these ultra-rushed deadlines, these ultra-rushed rulemakings, of which Texas was one. So that is a facet I wasn't able to address in my oral testimony, but it is an important element of this regime as implemented. The agency simply has not been meeting its statutory responsibilities in reviewing these plans. They've left states twisting in the wind. But very briefly, I'll note that Texas submitted its plan in 2009 in accordance with 2006 guidance documents on regional haze issued by EPA. So Texas was using the most recent documentation. While EPA sat on the Texas plan, they issued updated guidance on which the Texas plan was judged. So it's sort of an after the fact review with respect, or I guess a bait and switch. I'm not sure what metaphor I'm looking for, but Texas based its plan on the rules that were in play when they submitted it. EPA waited 6 years, changed the rules, and then judged the Texas plan based on different rules. So I'm glad I was afforded the opportunity to discuss that matter.
Well, it leads me to the second question. It's my understanding that EPA's own monitors showed that the Texas had already achieved its visibility goals. Can you address that? How does that make sense?
You're exactly right. Again, EPA is going to base its regulation upon model results. However, real-world results, the last 5 years, the running average at the Big Bend National Park, indicates that Texas has already achieved EPA's 2018 goal. So despite the fact that Texas has already achieved EPA's 2018 goal, EPA's own goal, and despite the fact that these EPA's controls don't result in any visibility benefit, and they cost about $2 billion, the EPA proceeded to pay. So it is that's another troubling aspect, certainly, of the Texas FIP.
So let me understand it. So waited 5 years, and then Texas was already meeting the goal, but EPA denied their plan and said, we want you to do a new plan, which, as I understand, will force Texas to spend $2.8 billion to increase an already 28.4-mile view by the length of 7 football fields. Does that make sense? I think that's $2.8 million a yard.
that sounds, now cost figures I have heard, I guess perhaps closer to $2 billion. Nonetheless, we're talking billions of dollars for benefits that are literally invisible. So the only dispute I would have with your comment respectfully is that Texas achieved the EPA's goal over the last 5 years while EPA was dithering on its plan.
Thank you. I yield back.